Another rough night for Jay Cutler, who after fumbling the ball Monday night injured his throwing hand. The Bears training staff had looked at his hand and he initially stayed in, but he eventually exited after throwing an interception with 36 seconds remaining in the third. He said he was having trouble gripping the ball. Meanwhile, Browns quarterback Josh McCown, he took another route Sunday as he injured his shoulder and decided to stay in the game. Here's McCown on why.
I think it's just not wanting to not be out there with your guys. You know, I got a dad and an older brother who I know get up and go to work, and sometimes they don't feel great, and they go and they grind, you know. And I got two little boys that they're playing football now, you know, and they get hit and they get banged up, and trying to teach them what toughness means, you know. And so for me, it's those things that, and just knowing the window for me right now, and understanding that I don't want to miss snaps. I don't want to be out, you know, without my guys. So, you know, for me, it's just, you know, unless it's, you know, going to fall off, let's try to make it work and make it go.
So Josh McCown doesn't believe in taking yourself out of the game. As for Jay Cutler, that appears to be a different story. Herm Edwards, do you have a problem with Jay leaving the game?
I do. I do. And I take my coach's hat off. I think sometimes people forget I was a player first.
I don't forget.
And you have a responsibility when you play this game of football, and it's responsibility really is to your teammates. There's a lot of guys that are hurt. Some guys are injured. There's a difference. When you're injured, you can't function. You cannot play your position to help the football team. When you're hurt, everyone's hurt. If you play football, you hurt, okay? You hurt. I hurt right now from playing football. I get that. But, you know, Jay handled it wrong, and I know his head coach, John Fox. Played football with John Fox, and I know his mentality. And it generally works like this. When you see a player come off the field and you observe that something could be awry, your first instinct as a coach, okay, I'm going to go visit with the trainer, and then I'm going to visit with the player. And I want to walk up to him and look in his eye and say, what we got here? How you doing? And it is in my history of doing that, and my recollect, when a player sits there and you're talking to him on the sideline in between, you know, the ball being changed or timeout, and if he starts giving you this long answer, you know what you say? Okay, you're out. Because he's trying to get out. Most of the time, players say, Coach, I'm good. I'm good. Never seen a player. Now, I don't know where the chain of command went, because Jay Cutler says at the end he's doing all this talking. I talked to the trainer. No, it's the head coach and the trainer, and then the coach makes the call. And then that way, Jay Cutler doesn't come across like, well, I just left the game. Well, I took myself out. You can't do that. Jay knows that. He's a veteran player. You can't do that, because now he's put it right back on him again. Like, did he quit on the team? Could he have finished the game? You know, I don't know that, but Jay Cutler shouldn't have been a part of this conversation. This is the head coach's conversation. He's the one that says, hey, I took him out. Now, that didn't happen. So now we're talking about Jay Cutler.
Coach.
Yes, sir.
Coach.
Give it to me.
I started out this show.
I saw you. I knew you was upset.
You know, Molly's been on this show for a few months. Outstanding. Max is my man. He's here now. But I think my audience, you know, folks got to understand, some people are getting to know me. Molly was laughing a little bit. Everybody was sitting there, come on, Stephen A. Jay Cutler's the worst quarterback. I'm not playing. I think he's horrible. And it has nothing to do with his ability. It has everything to do with the fact that I think he's the worst leader as a quarterback in the NFL. This man is in his 11th season as a starting quarterback. He has been to the playoffs one time. He has registered just 3 winning records. And on at least 2 occasions now, we literally have evidence of him quitting on his team. Players who have played with him will not swear by him. They only swear by him when they're with him, because they don't want to throw their quarterback under the bus. The second they're away from him, they talk about him. I know, because I have spoken to them personally. This dude doesn't want it. It is unquestionable. And that, to me, for a football player, at the quarterback position is the worst ingredients you can have. A quarterback, any other position, Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, any other position, is harmful as that could potentially be, you can overcome it. The one position on a football field where those kind of questions cannot exist about you is at the quarterback spot. Where people are questioning to quit or not.
This is, I come across fighters in boxing sometimes whose threshold for punishment and the heart and everything is not up to championship standards, right? And so they quit in the moment of truth. Now, that's because in boxing, we ask people to behave irrationally, to do things and take risks and take chances with their health that a normal person shouldn't do. But we're asking them, the talented ones, can you be a champion?
Yes.
So that's what's required. I understand your point about football. You want to be a quarterback, and Stephen A's point, you have to make some decisions about your future and your health that are not just business decisions. You got to sacrifice for your teammates, and it's that kind of a situation. I get that. And yet, even that said, hasn't Cutler shown enough talent in his career to not be considered the worst quarterback in the NFL?
Talent-wise, he is not the worst quarterback. But what Stephen A. touched upon is very true. He's not a leader. He's not a leader.
Disqualifying him from playing quarterback, in your opinion?
No. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are not leaders. And the problem is he's not a leader. And you expect this guy to be a leader because he's played so long. Look, here's the numbers. This guy is a 3-staffer. You know what that means? 3 staffs have been fired. That's never good when you're the quarterback. He won't survive this one. He won't.
Will he make it to the end of the season?
Oh, he makes it to the end of the season. He'll probably start again. But if this thing doesn't get better, John Fox is going to move. They're going to move on. He's a 3-staffer. When a player's a 3-staffer and he gets 3 staffs fired, you think the next staff coming in there going, hey, I'm going to
Coach,
this guy?
Coach,
yes, go ahead.
I need to chime in here before we end this segment because Max keeps bringing up the boxing analogy, which I understand. But at the end of the day, Max, you know this better than me because, my God, do you know your boxing. When you're in that ring, no matter the trainer, the conditioning coach, it's all on you. Floyd Money Mayweather always said that to me. At the end, it's me. I'm the one in there when it's all said and done. That's different in football. You got 10 teammates on the field with you. You've got 52 other dudes in that same uniform, and everybody has a job description. This man ultimately sucks the life out of guys around him. That's why I call him the worst.
And
it's not about his talent.
He did it.
It's because of that.
In an unforgivable way, in my opinion, in the NFC Championship game, where he had a really good defense, as Coach and I were talking before.
How do you recover from that?
That got him there. I understand that. However, to quit in the NFC Championship game, you need to make it to the NFC Championship game. He was doing something right to get there. And that's always been the case with him. He's had the talent that's kept him around, but he lacks that next ingredient. We're on the same page about that.
Nobody said he was the worst from years ago. I said he's the worst now because of that residue that you just brought up, because of the detrimental effect it has on the personnel around him.
You take Case Keenum or do you take Jay Cutler?
When's the last time you've been in Chicago? He has sucked the life out of that city in football.
Case Keenum or Jay Cutler,
Coach? He has sucked the life. Who was talking about the Bears?
Yeah, this is a prime example, and we say this all the time. Talent can be a curse. When you don't live up to your talent.
Yes.
Curse of the gifted.
Very true. Let's let our First Take fam get involved here. We want you guys to weigh in on this conversation. Do you agree with Jay Cutler's decision to leave the game? Go on Twitter and vote. We'll share those results a little later in the show. Herm, you'll be back with us.
Yes.
Which we appreciate. We always love your perspective as a player.
We should change that question.
And as a coach. We're going to
We should ask, is he the worst quarterback in football? Is Jay Cutler the worst quarterback in football?
That's
Put
a better
that up
question.
as a question.
Eagles fans are feeling very good right now with their #2 overall pick, Carson Wentz. He kept it short Monday, throwing over 70% of his passes 10 or fewer yards. Wentz finished 21 of 34 for 190 yards. In 1 TD, he was sacked twice, leading the Eagles to a 2-0 record now with a win over Cleveland in Week 1 and then Chicago last night. Max, what'd you see from Wentz?
I saw a guy who could not only make the dink and dunk throws, which is mostly what their offense is doing right now, obviously. He's a young quarterback in a very good situation with Doug Peterson. You know, contrast that to Goff in Los Angeles, where Jeff Fisher is his head coach. Everyone around Wentz was a quarterback at one point, and they seem to understand that, what he can do, what he may be capable of doing, but really shouldn't be doing right now. The offense is playing that way, and even though he's dinking and dunking a lot and using his legs at times, when he wants to air it out down the field, Stephen A., he can do that too. He made some nice passes down the field, 2 of them for would-be touchdowns that went through Selleck's hands, the tight end in the end zone. Looked like it may have been deflected a little bit, still went through the tight end's hands. And another touchdown, or would-be touchdown to Jordan Matthews, that really was a beautiful pass that Jordan Matthews didn't haul in. So even when he needs to make those deep throws, he can throw it down the field. He has pocket presence. I don't know what there is not to like about this guy right now, and he seems to be in a really good situation. And not just the Wentz situation, but the Eagles just period right now look to be a much improved team. A lot of that might be the Wicked Witch is dead because Chip Kelly is gone and the sunshine came out. But I like what I'm seeing from Peterson. He is an aggressive coach. He goes for it on 4th down. What can you say, right? They played 2 very bad teams, but you got to play whoever's in front of you. They've looked good, and so is Wentz, Stephen A.
Let me say this to you. The jury is still out on Carson Wentz. I know that's not a popular position to take today because he looked good last night. He has looked good in his first 2 games. I personally like him. I'm very fond of him, and I can't say enough about the job that Peterson is doing. He is a welcomed successor to Chip Kelly. Conventional football has taken place. The defense isn't being thrown to the wolves, left to hang out there and dry. As a result, they're rested, they're vibrant, they're vicious, they're going after it as best they possibly can. I'm impressed on that level. Carson Wentz has definitely impressed me, but here's where I pump the brakes. Your first game was against the Cleveland Browns. Your second game was against the leaderless Chicago Bears. That's your problem. So as far as I'm concerned, they haven't really played a team yet. In Cleveland's case, Hugh Jackson, DePodesta, Sashi Brown, I think they've got them aimed in the right direction, but it's going to take some time. They're simply not there. In the case of Chicago, I just went off about Jay Cutler. I told y'all last night the Eagles were going to win, and I said simply because of Jay Cutler, because I think he's that much of a joke. I literally believe that he's somebody that should give some of his money back. They should sue him to get some of his money back because I just think he's that much of a joke. I'm not joking, Molly. I'm dead serious. I think he's that bad. Now, having said all of that, I want to say this. You got Pittsburgh next week. You got Pittsburgh, okay? After Pittsburgh, you got the bye. You got road games at Detroit and Washington. Interesting. You got a home game against Minnesota. Then after that, you got road games at Dallas, at the New York Giants, and then you got Atlanta, and you're at Seattle. So when you look at some of these games on the Eagles' schedule, particularly road games at Seattle, at New York, at Dallas, at Washington, at Detroit, and then home games against Pittsburgh and Minnesota, I mean, it could get very interesting. We're going to find out a lot more about Carson Wentz. But I think we need to pump the brakes just a little bit because I've seen being in Philadelphia, Max, working here for 17 years for the Philadelphia Inquirer, knowing how desperate this fan base is for a winner, understanding what Donovan McNabb has brought to the table and how they've struggled, not just in the aftermath of it, but even before he ultimately departed from Philadelphia. It's been a long time. And so they can get really, really hyped. And I don't blame them because they deserve a reason to be excited. I'm just saying, had you beat quality teams to start the season, it would have been different. The fact that that's not the case yet, I'm saying, let me wait a minute.
The schedule you just went through, by the way, to me actually sounds like a typical NFL schedule, not extraordinarily weak or strong. It's a typical NFL schedule. You look at a team early in the year, you have questions about them, and questions about some of the teams on their schedule. You go, yeah, I don't know, we're going to find out. It doesn't look like, oh, my God, that's a murderer's row of teams they need to face. Some weak defenses there among the teams you mentioned, including Atlanta and some others, and Washington hasn't looked so good. Schwartz's defense really looked good yesterday. And the team, because I mentioned Peterson's kind of aggressive nature as a head coach, Schwartz's defense looked good. And what I was encouraged by, if I were an Eagles fan, which I'm not, I'm a Giants fan, this is like poison in my mouth, but the Eagles got stronger as the game went on. Now, this is very early in the season. Teams haven't really been thinking about Carson Wentz until very recently. He was not supposed to start. He is starting now. They've had some success. Teams are going to study what they're doing. They're going to make adjustments. I do not anticipate that Wentz will not throw any interceptions this year. He will certainly, I think, come down to earth as a rookie quarterback. But the question is, what did you think of Wentz, and how can you say anything but good things at this moment? The kid looks really good. He looks like the real deal. Is it an open and shut case? This guy's absolutely going to be great. We don't know that yet. The sample size is way too small. But so far, so good. And that goes across the line for the Eagles, including on the offensive line, where they thought they made some improvements. But I figured with Jason Peters coming back down to earth, he looks to be in decline. That would even out. In fact, Peters looked pretty good on some plays I was looking at yesterday. And the offensive line has seemed to get better. So if the O-line is better, Schwartz is coaching up the defense, Peterson's being aggressive, and they have a real find maybe at quarterback, Eagles are looking pretty good right now.
Well, listen, just remember, guys, that Lane Johnson, he's due to be suspended. We don't know what's going to happen with him. You can't continue to have Jordan Matthews dropping a pass like he dropped last night. And again, once you learn to figure him out, it's going to be real interesting to see how he responds to better competition than what he's faced. Right now, you can say, okay, it looks good, 190 yards passing, but what you're really saying is that, damn it, he ain't Jared Goff. That's what you're really saying.
Well, or at least Jeff Fisher ain't his coach.
But looking forward to the game this weekend, as you guys alluded to, haven't played the toughest competition in getting the Steelers when they come to down.